Using the Olympus OM-20, which is the film camera that we use in the Academy, is very simple. I'm going to describe a few elements of the camera and how they work to help you with your photography. First thing is that the camera has a lens at the front. It's very simple to use. There's a ring here which has numbers on, and that is the focusing ring. To focus, you turn it forwards and backwards until the picture becomes sharp in the viewfinder. By looking through the viewfinder, you can see the image become soft or sharp around the edges of the image of the picture. Now, the viewfinder is at the back of the camera. Unlike a digital camera, there's no screen, there's no display for you to see the pictures you've taken. All the pictures you take have to be done through looking through this little window here, which is called the viewfinder. Every time you take a shot, which is by pressing the shutter release button here, a little window opens up inside the camera, which I'll show you. Which exposes the film inside the camera to light every time you take a shot. What we then have to do is wind on the film to move on a fresh piece of film in the back of the camera for the next picture. Depending on the different light situations that you're in with the camera, whether it's low light or a very bright day, you'll find that this camera automatically detects the amount of light required. So on a very dark day, where there's not much light at all, you'll find that the camera makes a sound like this. That's a slow shutter. It can sometimes be even slower. On a very bright day, the camera will actually calculate that it doesn't need too much light to go inside the camera, so it uses a fast shutter speed, something like this. That's a very fast shutter speed. In order to work in an automatic way like that, you need to set the camera to the specific mode. And the specific mode is auto, which is that setting there. The white line has to be in line with auto. To check that the batteries are working, you can actually turn this up to check, and that indicates that you have fresh batteries in the camera. The section below that is the off button, and then there's two other settings, which is manual, where you can completely override the shutter speed of the camera and select it yourself, and bulb mode, which is exactly the same as on a digital camera. Bulb mode allows you to take pictures for a very long time, such as if I was to hold down the shutter release button now, I could hold it down for minutes if I like to, and the shutter will remain open, like so. Once the film has been loaded, select the auto option on the camera, wind your film on, you look through the viewfinder here, and you focus with this large rubber ring here, which is the focusing ring. And this camera has a guide to help you with your focusing. There are numbers in orange and white on the barrel. Those are distance markers. So the white markers are distances in metric, that's centimetres or metres, and the orange numbers are markers in the old imperial measurement system, which we used to use of feet and inches. Now you can use both, they both correlate to exactly the same measurements anyway. So if I was to take a photograph of somebody from a metre away, I could set this to the white figure 1, which is 1 metre. If they were 1.5 metres away, I could set it to 1.5. If they were 5 metres away, I could set it to 5 metres. The sideways 8 logo that you can see on the barrel there means infinity, and you would set the camera to infinity when you're taking pictures of objects on the horizon, very far away indeed. Pictures of trees, that sort of thing. This camera with this particular lens can focus up to 0.45 metres, which is 45 centimetres. That's the closest you can focus something with on this camera. If you look in the centre of the image, you can see a circle with a line through it. This is called the focus finder or micro prism. As we turn the focusing ring around, we can see that in the micro prism and the focus finder, two elements of the picture join together, indicating that you focused on that point of the picture. You can use this as an aid to focus on elements in the distance or close up, or you can just use the whole image and use your eye to see if you're in correct focus or not. And that's basically it, apart from one other ring which is around the end of the lens, which is called the aperture setting. This is something you have complete control over with this camera, and you have to set it to something when you're doing your photography. Aperture is incredibly important in photography because it controls the amount of light which is going inside the camera, and it's very similar to the human eye. If I take the lens off, you can see that you can see through this lens. It looks like a human eye. On a very, very dark day, it's a good idea to have the camera lens's eye, or the aperture, wide open, as your own eye would be in a dark room. To do that, we must set it to a low number. 1.8 is as wide as this lens can get. 2.8 is a bit smaller. Number 4 is even smaller. 5.6 is smaller still. And then as we get to 8, 11 and 16, that makes the hole inside the lens very small indeed. So I'll demonstrate that to you. That's the camera lens wide open. Close slightly to 2.8. Close to 4. 5.6. 8. 11 and 16. At 16 it's almost a tiny dot in the middle. If it was to be wide open again, it would look like this. So, a good rule of thumb. If you're shooting inside the studio, if you're shooting around the school inside, open the camera lens up to 1.8. If you're outside, on a very, very sunny day, so sunny that it's very difficult to see and you have to squint your eyes, turn the lens down to 16 or 11. On an average day outside, overcast day, cloudy, set the camera to 5.6. From there, the camera will be able to actually calculate a very good exposure for you using the computer brain that's inside the camera.